Welcome to Running the Defense, your weekly dose of insights, strategies, and real-world stories from the front lines of insurance defense. I'm Greg Lois. Join me as we explore what it really takes to run a great defense firm. All right, so a little bit of a different format. I've been doing a lot of videos that I've been posting on social media about our company, and they have been very short videos. They've been a minute to 2 minutes long. They've been on very focused topics. And the goal of those videos have been to really talk about what's unique about the company I lead. But this is a different format. This is going to be a video podcast. It's going to give me an opportunity to talk a little bit more at length. So expect a little bit longer, more like 10 to 15 minute long discussions or thoughts. Sometimes I'm going to have guests. Sometimes it's going to be just me. And the goal here is to produce something that I wish I had access to. I think today that so much of the information that I've had to obtain has come from podcasts, it's come from blogs, it's come from Twitter people that I follow, social media posts, and really trying to assemble a great picture of what a thriving, flourishing law firm looks like. And what are the goals or requirements or expectations for really great law firm leadership? So putting together this podcast for people that I think are hopefully similarly situated. You own a law firm, you're in the same competitive space as us, and you're trying to get to the next level. And the other person that I think this podcast would be great for would be maybe an associate, someone new at an insurance defense firm or an employment defense firm, who's wondering, what are the bigger picture items here? What are the bigger or broader strategies at play? Maybe doesn't have access to what leadership is thinking all the time and wants to get access to that and sort of get some authentic feedback about how we see what our company mission is, what we think a successful law firm looks like and should be doing. So that's a little bit of the reason for this being a longer form, sort of podcast style discussion versus these short social media things that we've been posting and I've been posting primarily to like our LinkedIn and our Twitter feeds that have gotten a lot of great traction. And I know when I interview people or meet people at conferences and conventions, they say, hey, I've seen you on LinkedIn or I've seen you on Twitter. Or I see what you're saying. And I'm interested in that, and that's great, but I want to go a little bit deeper, and this is an opportunity for us to have a little bit more of a long-form discussion. So with all that preface being said, that's the purpose of this recording, and that's what I'm going to try to bring. I'm going to try to do this on a very regular basis, at least once a week, drop a longer form discussion about general law firm strategy, marketing, branding, positioning, and then talking a little bit more about what is best practice. So those are the things I hope to bring. So if you don't know me, my name is Greg Lois. I lead Lois Law Firm. We are a New York and New Jersey law firm that represents employers primarily in workers' compensation matters in New York and New Jersey. So we are a litigation-focused law firm. We're very unique in that our size, we're more than 50 attorneys. We're very unique in our focus, which is we are all trial attorneys. We are all defending employers every single day in every court in New York and every court in New Jersey. And we're also unique in the way that we approach this area of law. We don't just want to punch a clock, come to work, and go home. The people that work here are very committed. They look at this as a calling, and we're really trying to advance the state of the art. That's really what our company history has been, and that's what my role has been as a leader here. So I want to start to share that in a more authentic and direct way, and hopefully this is useful for other people. So let's dive in. I got two topics today that I want to talk about. The first topic is community, and the next topic is diversity. So I want to talk about community first. And community, from a defense perspective, I want to talk about two unique things about community, and what those words mean to me, and sort of put this in a little bit more of a broad context. So the first context I want to put this in is as an insurance defense firm or as an employment defense firm, what does community mean, and what should we be thinking about when we think community? It's interesting. As a defense lawyer, every defense firm thinks that they're the greatest thing in the world, right? They all think that. And they're all thinking that they're in competition with everybody, everywhere, all the time. They have a scarcity mindset, it seems. It's always this fear position of, I need to always be marketing and always need to be adding clients. And because of that, there isn't a really authentic, open, transparent community amongst the defense bar, because every defense attorney thinks that they're out there to steal everybody else's lunch, and the lunch is their clients. And the other way that these defense law firms compete is for people, poaching each other's best people, recruiting people out, interfering with each other's businesses. That's par for the course. And because of that, there hasn't been a tremendous amount of cooperation or even collegiality amongst owners of defense law firms and leadership of defense law firms. In fact, I think they look at what they're doing as very local, parochial, unique to them, not really building a community, not sharing information, certainly. And there's some good reasons for that. Again, this is a competitive area of law. There's a lot of companies or law firms that come and go. They say, I'm going to do insurance defense. They get into it for a while. Usually they die because they take too much on. My joke about defense firms is most of them die from indigestion, not from starvation. They seem to take too much on. And I think there's a reason for that. I think, there's this mindset amongst defense counsel that clients are extremely scarce. And so you have to covet and create moats around your clients. And, you don't want to share them with other attorneys. Certainly, you don't want them meeting other attorneys. Because in most law firms, rainmaking is the most important activity of the law firm. And they could talk all they want about their practices and what great attorneys they are. But really, in most law firms, in order to succeed, the individual partners or attorneys have to become rainmakers. They have to essentially be marketers. And the power distribution in most law firms is from the top down, and it focuses on those who are rainmakers, who are able to attract clients and bring work in. And that's such a focus. And for many attorneys, as they begin their career and they start to learn their craft and they become competent technicians, they very quickly get pushed into, well, you've either got to become a marketer and rainmaker, or you're going to be a forever associate. You're never going to grow, and you're never going to have a position of responsibility and perhaps not equity in the company because you're not a marketer, because you're not a salesperson, because you're not a rainmaker. And that pressure, that internal pressure on attorneys creates an internally competitive environment, but also externally a very competitive environment in which attorneys will work at a law firm, move on to a new law firm, and then try to steal as many clients as they possibly can. Attorneys become very protective of their clients. I know attorneys who go to conferences and say, I'm only here because one of my clients is going to that conference, and I want to make sure they don't talk to any other attorneys. They're trying to guard or protect or build a moat around their clients so they don't meet any of their competitors. And because of that, there is just a lack of transparency, a lack of authentic discussion amongst the defense bar about the things that the defense bar is uniquely struggling with. And look, if you're running a large defense firm like I am, I think that we have either one of the first, second, or maybe third biggest workers' comp defense firms in the entire country. You've got struggles, and those struggles are things like rate pressure from clients, trying to make sure that you're competitive in terms of pay so that you can retain and keep your best people, which is so important. You've got recruitment pressure of other firms coming in and trying to take your best people. And you can't really protect your intellectual property, which is maybe your techniques and standards or patterns, because all of that is going to be shared very quickly amongst the other defense bar and then deployed in their cases. So even if you're like, we think we are very creative, we're out of the box thinkers, and we know that the trial techniques that we're developing or the patterns we're deploying, we know in the next few years our competitive firms are going to be adopting some of those same ideas. And, there is a challenge, particularly if you're a first mover in the market like we are, or the the leader in what you're doing, that all these fast followers are going to come on and very quickly sort of adopt whatever is winning in the marketplace of the legal landscape. So there's all these pressures, and I get it why defense counsel don't want to share and they don't want to talk about what their challenges are, and they're not great at building a community. But really, more than ever, we need to build a community, and we need to be transparent about what we're doing and what pressures we face. Our clients want us to succeed. Your clients want you to succeed. They want you to have a great, strong law firm, a robust, mature firm that's going to be there for them for the next 10 to 20 years. They want that. But some of the competitive pressure is forcing us not to have that. And what's interesting to me is if you go to a plaintiff's bar conference, right? If you go to a Trial Attorneys of America or a plaintiff's conference, and I go to them, by the way, I go to conferences that are led, and sometimes they have funny names, right? They're called like the 7-figure lawyer conference, or they're plaintiff-oriented conferences. It's interesting what they talk about in their conferences versus what defense conferences focus on. When you go to a defense conference, there's an emphasis on continuing legal education. There's an emphasis on technique. There's an emphasis on trends in the law. There's a real emphasis on being competent technicians. And most of the seminars or presentations are surrounding those issues. Very few presentations, if any, are ever focused on, well, how to run a great, mature, thriving business, how to take care of your people better, how to be a better marketer, how to be a better brand, how to do the things that really build longevity in the marketplace. Instead, the focus is almost always on technical aspects of the law or changes in the law or statutory things that are coming down the pike. That's what our conferences focus on. And those conferences, by the way, are kind of boring usually because they are focusing on usually pretty arcane, pretty small nooks and crannies of the law that we're going to try to develop or exploit or take leverage from or gain momentum from and turn into wins for our clients. But when you go to a plaintiff's conference, very little, like 10 or 15% of those conferences will be about changes in the law or case law development. And most of those conferences are going to be about how they're running their businesses. In fact, when you go to those conferences, a lot of the energy and the presentations are going to be about things like SEO, search engine optimization, or keywords, or how they're marketing, and the pressure that plaintiffs firms have, which is so different than what defense firms have. They care about their intake rates and how many intakes they're doing a day and how many of those intakes convert. And what percentage of their practice is pre-litigation, pre-suit demands? How many settlement offers are they getting pre-suit versus post-suit? That's where they're focused, and they're trading that information. They're sharing that information. They are more open to each other. They're doing things like having shared brief banks, trading experts, trading, here's the doctors we're using, sharing that information with each other. They're just a lot more open because I don't think they think the way defense firms think or defense attorneys think about constantly needing to guard their referral sources and in this position of constant scarcity. And that's really the first thing I would say. So when we're talking about community, the kind of community that I want to build and I want to be part of as a defense attorney, as someone who's focused my entire career, 20 plus years on defending employers, is I want to be part of a defense community that's open, that's transparent, that we're sharing what's working, what's not working, that we're able to talk about our business challenges that we're all having. And I want that conversation. So because I'm not finding it anywhere, I'm starting it. Okay. So that's why this podcast, that's why this video format, that's why you're going to see me doing these long form discussions, because I think that's such an important thing that we're just not doing a great job of. Building a really robust, open discussion, particularly among people like me. If you're running a law firm with over 150 employees, more than 50 attorneys, like we should be banding together. We're not in competition with each other. And particularly, look at me, I'm in this little niche, right? I've got this one niche that I'm in, and it's not probably competitive with 99% of the law firms out there. So we should be trading these best practices because we all want the same thing. Like I want to offer to my clients a great practice that's going to be leading in terms of professionalism and advocacy, and creativity. That's what I want to present to my clients. But for my employees, it's just as important for me to offer them a workplace where they can flourish, where they have an opportunity. And so the same pressures that I'm facing, I know other leaders are facing, right? Things like downward rate pressure from clients, the need to increase our rates to keep up with cost of living increases and to remain competitive in the market and keep good attorneys, right? Those are important things to us. I know other defense firms are struggling with recruiting. I know all about it. I'm sure it's a big challenge to get really qualified candidates, to have a great training program and to share that information, how we are training, how we are investing in our people. That's the conversation that I want to have with the broader defense bar. So that's something that a theme that you're going to hear from me, and some of the really important stuff that I want to see come from sharing this information is hopefully starting to help build that community. So that was the first topic that I wanted to talk about today. I just wanted to identify some of these problems that I see, that why we're not working together, why we're not open, why everyone sees each other as an enemy combatant that we have to shield ourselves from or never be vulnerable to each other. That's not healthy. And long term, it's not healthy for us as leaders. It's not healthy for our businesses. And it's certainly not healthy for the employees that we all are trying to serve. So, that's one thing that you're going to hear this long form discussion talking about. Me being as open and authentic and honest as I can be about what are the pressures that we're facing, what would be the benefits of building a community, and how we can all work together to ensure that we're able to offer a really mature, robust service to our clients, but also a great workplace to our employees. So that's the first topic that I want to discuss just today. And of course, give an attorney a microphone and we'll just keep talking. And the second topic I want to talk about was diversity. And it's not the diversity you're probably thinking about. I just came back from a great conference that I was speaking at in Boston. And I had this very interesting conversation with one of the attorneys there, Paul, and we were talking about, our businesses and sort of what we were hoping to do. And I told him a little story about something that happened at my company. And it was a story about client diversity. And I thought I would share it here just to put this idea out there for maybe other leaders or other people that are developing their own law firms or companies. And that idea of diversity was something that happened to us in COVID. COVID came around. I'm sitting right now in my New Jersey office. We had tremendous lockdowns here, tremendous limitations. I have an office in New York. The lockdowns there were just as bad. And if you can cast your mind back to what happened when the lockdowns occurred, they scared everyone. We didn't know, hey, we're going to turn off the world. Is it going to turn back on, right? And when? And if you remember and can cast your mind back to that time, there were these every couple of weeks they say, oh, in a few more weeks we're going to release some of these restrictions, or we'll open up the beaches, or you can go to the movies again. And then a couple of weeks would go by and they say, oh no, we're extending even further. And as that was happening for us, it was also happening for our clients. These employers were facing the same challenges we were facing. And from a leadership perspective, I started really looking carefully at our client mix. And I started looking at which of my clients are maybe not going to survive these lockdowns, which of our clients were most vulnerable. And we were looking at our retail clients, some of our service clients, our transportation clients, and we were saying, oh my goodness, some of these clients are just never going to come back from this. And we've seen that, right? I mean, if you look at some of the entertainment clients that we served, I mean, the local movie theaters have all been shut down during COVID. Most of them have not come back. A lot of retail establishments just simply went out of business. A lot of the smaller restaurants that are just gone, they never were able to sort of survive that storm and come out of it. And so it got me thinking at that time about our client mix. And, we're in a unique position, right? Because we only do exactly one kind of law here. We don't do matrimonial law and real estate law and business litigation and all the other types of laws that some of these more generalized firms were doing. So I started thinking about, what is our exposure to the market in this prolonged sort of lockdown situation? And when I looked at my client list, and I would challenge you, if you're a partner at a defense firm, or you're a rainmaker at a defense firm, or you're in leadership at these defense firms. I want you to think strategically about your clients. And what I mean by that is, do you have a really diverse client base? And we, at that time, were looking at our business, and we said, about half our work is coming from self-insured employers, about half our work is coming from carriers, insurance carriers. And that insurance carrier risk, by the way, is very diverse, because it's everything from little mom and pop, one location businesses, all the way up to much larger businesses that had, $1 policies or were in the insured population. And we started to realize, like, oh, wow, a lot of this could go away. And, particularly in our retail sector, our hospitality sector, we were looking at that and going, wow, we might be a little bit overexposed to some of this. And our decision at that point, or my decision, I should say, because I was the managing partner at the time, was I really need to take a look at our market segmentation and be very thoughtful and careful about making sure that we had a really diverse referral mix, that our referral partners were in every sort of business category, in every segment. And when I looked at that, and I would challenge you, take the time, go grab a list of your current clients and segment them and say, is this a hospitality client? Is it a transportation client? Is it insured client, self-insured? What segment are they in? How much manufacturing are you representing? How many warehousing companies or transportation companies? Take a look at that. And what we said is, okay, when we look at this market segmentation sort of exercise, the thing that we don't have is we didn't have any government work in there. Now, the reason for that is I operate in New York and New Jersey. My experience with politics has sort of taught me, like, you don't want to be part of politics in New York or New Jersey. It's really dirty. It always has felt to me in the past like it's a lot of payoffs and handouts and giving people tickets to baseball games and football games and taking people out to dinner and making donations. And that just felt gross to me and not something that we ever want to get part of. And so we didn't have, at that time, any governmental entities as clients. And when you look there, and again, during the context of lockdowns, where you're looking and going, hey, the only companies or the only organizations or entities that seem to be like they're going to survive this with the same headcount is probably government. We said, okay, that's a miss. And so 5 years ago or so, I started taking a much more specific approach to that and saying, okay, how can we increase our marketing and our brand position and our referral partners in that, specifically that governmental category or segment. And I wanted to also be true to our values, which is, we don't pay for work. I'm not the kind of attorney that's going to send clients, tickets to things or make political donations. It's just not in my DNA. It's not something I feel comfortable with. I always feel like those kinds of clients are most likely going to be the most disloyal clients. They're going to look at you simply as either a vendor or transactionally. They're going to look at you as someone who's just going to, the next attorney who gives them slightly better tickets to the Jets game is going to get their work. So they seem to me to not be a good referral source. But we said, all right, let's take a look inside of that government segment and which are the types of clients within that segment that we would want to obtain. And so that began a process of really starting to study that market a little bit more effectively, looking at what parts of that market could we enter into contractual relationships with, what kind of requests for proposals could we respond to, so that we have now, at this point, 5 years later, our governmental work is now 6.7% of our total mix, which is a pretty healthy percentage. And as we've drawn out our market segments, I can tell you that no client is more than 7% of our total, or no market segments, no more than 7% of our total referral partner mix. And I think that's very important, particularly in a practice like this, where we're really doing one type of law. So we're not expanding into different areas of law or bringing on different or new practice areas, to make sure that your market segmentation is healthy. And if one area or one group of clients is going to go through, maybe because of recessionary pressure or changes in the marketplace, or maybe because of changes in governmental regulation, or as we saw during lockdowns, just random executive orders shutting down entire segments of the economy, that you're in a position that you can keep your people busy and employed so that you can then over time be a viable entity, right? So strategically, when we think about diversity here, when I think about diversity of referral source and making sure that no one client or segment is going to dominate the firm. Because the truth of it is, if that's true for you, if you look at your client list and you go, well, 50% of it's with one company, that is a really quite vulnerable position. And when you think about the kind of continuity and longevity you want to offer your employees, you want to make sure that you're going to be able to make these long-term investments in things like training or auditing program or even a branding program for your company. You need to be sure that you're going to be able to keep all these people employed and that you are spreading out your referral partners amongst the broadest possible group and taking a very close look at that. So my tip for today, or my tip for this one is, when you think about your client list, think about it strategically. Think about the places where you're currently not maybe exposed to that area of the market, and think, should we be? Would that make us stronger over the long term? And by stronger, I mean better able to offer continuity to your employees, less exposed to any one market segment having a downturn. So that's my managing partner's tip for this inaugural presentation. Thanks for joining me. My goal is going to be to release these every week or so, and I'm going to try to focus on the big picture things, the types of things that I hope are interesting and useful for other managing partners or leaders of law firms, but then also talk about it in such a way that I think even a new attorney or new associate could maybe get some value from starting to think about, okay, this is how the leadership or the owners of this company that I'm working for are thinking, right? So you can start to align yourself with some of these broader strategic and I would say mission-oriented aspects of being a lawyer and ultimately being a leader or an owner of a law firm. All right, until next time, have a great day, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Running the Defense. Remember, while I am a lawyer, I'm not your lawyer. Unless we've signed something with a lot of small print and billable hours attached, there is no attorney-client relationship formed by you listening to this podcast. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only, so don't take it as legal advice, unless, of course, it helps you win an argument at dinner. See you next time.